When a violent biker gang leader assaults a woman outside a bar and kicking her in the face, completely unaware her husband is just around the corner. But her husband isn't just anyone, he's The Rock. What starts as a public humiliation quickly spirals into a fierce showdown as The Rock unleashes his unstoppable fury. One by one, the gang begins to realize they've messed with the wrong man. But this isn't just about revenge, it's about justice, respect, and making sure no one ever lays a hand on the innocent again. What happens next will leave everyone stunned. Subscribe and like this video to see how the story unfolds. The early afternoon sun scorched the asphalt in downtown Phoenix. Heat shimmered over the pavement like rising steam, giving the busy street a warped, dreamlike haze. Shops buzzed with lunchtime traffic. People laughed. Music spilled from open patios. No one noticed the black motorcycles lining up near the corner diner. Inside the retro-style restaurant, Alana Johnson, wife of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, sat at a window booth sipping iced tea. Her copper curls framed her face, sunglasses propped atop her head, and her peach-colored summer dress clung lightly to her skin. She looked calm, but her eyes were constantly scanning. Dwayne had gone to the sports store 2 blocks away to pick up gear for their daughter's birthday party. Alana had stayed behind to rest her feet. It was supposed to be an ordinary stop, a quiet moment. Nothing more. Until the engines growled. From the corner of her eye, Alana noticed a group of men swaggering off their bikes. They weren't the usual tourists or weekend riders. These men were loud, rough, dressed in dust-covered leather and radiating aggression. One of them, taller, broader, his beard thick and unkempt, stood out. He wore a spiked vest and boots with steel toes. Across his back was a patch that read "Widow Makers." His name was Cade Crusher Maddox. Alana tensed, her instincts prickling. Crusher swaggered up the diner steps with his crew trailing behind. The door flung open violently, hitting the wall so hard that it rattled the glass. Conversations hushed. Everyone turned. Crusher's eyes swept the diner until they landed on Alana. "Well, what do we got here?" he muttered with a smirk. Alana glanced away, choosing not to engage. She had dealt with worse. Being The Rock's wife meant media attention, pushy fans, and the occasional threat. But this felt different. This wasn't a man looking for a photo. It was a man looking for control. "Hey!" Crusher said louder, stepping toward her table. "I asked you a question." Alana didn't respond. Crusher grinned and leaned closer, placing his gloved hands on her table. His stench, cigarettes, sweat, and stale beer, hit her instantly. "I said," he repeated, "what's a pretty thing like you doing sitting all alone?" The other bikers snickered. One of them pulled out his phone to record. Alana locked eyes with him, calm, unflinching. "My husband's around the corner," she said flatly. Crusher's eyebrows raised mockingly. "Is that supposed to scare me?" "I didn't say you should be scared," she replied. "I said you should walk away, now." Crusher laughed, a deep, ugly sound that echoed through the diner. He turned to his gang. "You hear that? Queen of the Desert over here thinks I should walk away."
Alana stood slowly. "I don't want trouble. But you don't want him to find out you bothered me."
He tilted his head. "Oh, I do want trouble."
Then it happened.
In one sudden, violent motion, Crusher spun and kicked Alana in the face. His steel-toed boot connected with her cheekbone with a sickening crack. She was flung backward, hitting the booth hard and collapsing to the floor. Gasps filled the air. Dishes shattered. Someone screamed. Her sunglasses flew across the room. Blood spilled onto the linoleum, and silence followed. Until the bell above the diner door rang again. This time, it wasn't the wind. It was him. Dwayne Johnson stepped through the door, holding a bag of sporting gear in one hand and an energy drink in the other. His eyes scanned the scene. Saw Alana on the floor, her lips split, her cheek bruised. The bag fell from his hand.
The drink dropped and rolled.
And then his eyes locked on to Crusher. The biker leader froze. "Who?" Dwayne asked, voice low and lethal. "Did this?" Everyone pointed. Crusher tried to speak, tried to laugh it off. "Hey, man, she—" He didn't finish, because The Rock was already moving. In 3 steps, he was across the room. In one fluid motion, he grabbed Crusher by the vest, slammed him into the table behind them, then hurled him through the open doorway. The man landed hard on the sidewalk outside, groaning. The other bikers backed away, stunned. The Rock stepped out, the sun igniting the rage on his face, his fists clenched, shoulders wide like a charging bull. The entire street froze.
Crusher stumbled to his feet, furious, embarrassed. You think you're tough just 'cause you're famous?
The Rock cracked his neck. I'm tough because I earned it. Crusher lunged.
The first punch came wild, sloppy, desperate. The Rock ducked, slipped left, and unleashed a right hook that sent the biker spinning. He didn't stop there. A kick to the ribs, a palm strike to the chest, elbow to the temple. The sound of leather meeting flesh echoed like thunder.
People pulled out their phones. Cars stopped. A chant started in the background, low at first, then louder. Rocky! 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 Crusher tried to crawl away, but the Rock grabbed him by the back of the vest, lifted him like he was weightless, and held him up for everyone to see. You kicked a woman in the face, he roared. My wife!
The crowd watched.
I should end you. And for a moment, it looked like he would.
Then Alana's voice, weak but steady, rang out from the diner doorway.
Dwayne, don't.
He turned to her.
She stood, bruised but unbroken. His fist slowly loosened. Instead of a final blow, he dropped Crusher like garbage onto the sidewalk. Cops were already on their way. And Crusher? He lay groaning in a pool of his own spit and blood. The Rock didn't look at him again.
He walked back to Alana, wrapped her in his arms, and kissed her forehead gently.
You okay, baby? She nodded faintly, but her eyes weren't on him. They were on the gang still standing by the bikes. And they weren't done yet. The moment Dwayne helped Alana into the booth, the temperature inside the diner dropped, not from the air conditioner, but from the tension that flooded back in. Outside, the gang was still gathered, whispering among themselves, casting wary glances toward the door. The man who had led them, now crumpled on the sidewalk, moaned softly. Blood dripped from his nose. One of the bikers knelt beside him, trying to rouse him. The others weren't just angry now, they were humiliated, and that made them dangerous. Alana, her cheek already swelling, clutched Dwayne's hand. They're not leaving, she whispered. He looked up. His jaw tightened. No, he said. They're not. A voice rose from outside, a different biker, broad-shouldered and tattooed from temple to knuckles. His leather jacket bore the name Fang. This ain't over, Hollywood, Fang barked. You think you can lay hands on Crusher and walk away? Dwayne stepped to the door. You want more? He said, his voice calm, deep, and heavy with warning. Or are you waiting for the ambulance like your boy out here? A few patrons inside the diner chuckled nervously, but Fang didn't flinch. He pointed at Alana. She disrespected him, Fang sneered. She got what she deserved.
Dwayne stepped outside. The sun seemed to dim behind him.
There was a reason he didn't often allow the anger to rise fully. It wasn't just about reputation. It wasn't about keeping calm for fans or setting a good example. It was because when his fury ignited, it didn't burn quietly. It exploded. You just made the worst mistake of your life, Dwayne said.
And then he took off his jacket.
Behind him, the crowd that had gathered, phones in hand, frozen in awe, sensed what was coming. Gasps rippled. Car horns stopped. The street turned into a stage, and the main act was just getting started. The gang wasn't small. 7 men, all heavy-set, trained in street brawling, fueled by ego and revenge. They surrounded him in a half-circle, leather creaking as fists clenched. Alana watched from the doorway, heart pounding. But deep down, even through the pain in her face, she felt a fierce fire in her chest, because they had no idea who they were facing. The Rock didn't posture. He didn't talk. He moved. The first came fast, a short man with a chain in one hand and a broken beer bottle in the other. He swung. Dwayne ducked and slammed his elbow upward into the biker's armpit, disarming him in one hit. Before the bottle could even hit the ground, Dwayne shoved him back with a hammer blow to the chest, knocking the wind out of him. Another rushed from the left. Too slow. The Rock stepped aside, grabbed his leather jacket, and used his own momentum to toss him through a stack of restaurant patio chairs. The man rolled, clutching his back. Now 5 remained. But their confidence faltered. One pulled a knife. Alana gasped. Dwayne's eyes narrowed. Bad idea.
The man lunged. Dwayne dodged, grabbed his wrist, twisted it outward, and kneed him in the gut so hard he folded like a suitcase. The knife clattered harmlessly away. Dwayne kicked it across the street, out of reach.
Get him! Fang shouted. The last 4 charged together.
It was chaos, punches thrown, arms tangled, but Dwayne was a storm, controlled, precise, devastating. He caught one biker under the chin with an uppercut that lifted him off the ground. Another tried to grapple him from behind. Dwayne reached over, grabbed him by the neck, and slammed him backward into a parked car, denting the door.
Only 2 remained now. Fang and the youngest of the group, a lanky man with shaking hands who looked like he had no idea how he got here.
Fang stepped forward, breathing hard.
You don't walk away from this. I wasn't planning to, the Rock said.
Fang swung wildly. Dwayne blocked it, grabbed him by the collar, and landed a blow to the sternum that sent him flying into a trash bin.
The young biker stared at the Rock, then dropped his fists. I didn't want to hurt anybody, he said, trembling. I just follow them. Dwayne walked up to him, looked him in the eye. You see what happens when you follow men like that? The biker nodded, terrified.
Then leave, Dwayne said.
And the kid ran. The fight was over. Dwayne stood in the middle of the wreckage, bodies groaning, onlookers cheering, police sirens now screaming in the distance. He turned to Alana, but she wasn't in the doorway anymore. She was walking toward him, slow but strong, her face bruised, but her spirit unshaken. He met her halfway. Are you hurt bad? He asked, voice softening.
I'll be fine, she said.
They embraced in the center of the broken chaos, cameras still filming, people still watching. And in that moment, Dwayne Johnson wasn't just a superstar or a fighter. He was a man who loved his wife so fiercely that the entire city bore witness to what happens when that love is threatened. Minutes later, police arrived. Officers rushed to detain the bikers, stunned at the scene. But the crowd made sure they knew exactly what happened. He saved her. He didn't start it. They messed with the wrong guy. As Alana and Dwayne stepped into their car, flashes from phones and reporters followed. But they ignored it all. Let's go home, she whispered. He nodded. And as they pulled away, the last thing anyone saw was the Rock's arm wrapped protectively around the woman those bikers would never forget. The city couldn't stop talking. By morning, every major news outlet had the footage. The Rock destroys biker gang trended globally. Headlines screamed across every platform. The raw video of Dwayne Johnson defending his wife from the gang leader's brutal kick had gone viral within hours. Millions of views, millions of comments. But beneath the noise, something else stirred, something dangerous. Because while the world cheered, the gang's leaders, those who hadn't been in the fight, were watching. And they wanted revenge. Back in their compound, a grimy industrial building on the edge of the city, the remaining gang members met in a steel-paneled room filled with cigarette smoke and rage. The leader now in charge, an older, more calculating man known only as Reaper, stood at the head of the table, watching the fight on a loop. He didn't blink, he didn't speak, until finally, with one tap of a calloused finger on the pause button, he turned to his men. You let some Hollywood clown take out our crew, he growled. He's not just a clown, one man muttered. He's the Rock. Reaper's eyes narrowed. I don't care if he's made of granite. He embarrassed us. He made Crusher bleed on concrete. He humiliated Fang in front of the world. You want people to take us seriously again? He leaned forward. Then we make it personal. Back in Beverly Hills, Dwayne was pacing the house. Alana, though bruised, insisted she was fine. But Dwayne wasn't. His hands were still sore from the blows he had delivered. His heart hadn't settled. And now that the adrenaline had faded, the question started to creep in. What if he hadn't been there in time? What if the gang came back? What if this wasn't over? He walked out onto their patio, staring into the vast California skyline, thinking. His phone buzzed. It was Roman, his long-time security advisor. I saw the footage, Roman said. Yeah, Dwayne replied. So did the rest of the planet. You need to know something. That gang, they're not just your typical bar brawlers. They're part of a network. They move drugs, weapons, even people. And what you did, that humiliated them. Someone's going to retaliate.
Dwayne's jaw clenched. Let them!
No, Roman said firmly. This is different. You need to be smart, not strong. Let me beef up your security. Lock down the house. Take Alana somewhere quiet, at least for a while. Dwayne sighed. We're not running. You're not running, but she's recovering, and she's not bulletproof. That hit him in the gut. Roman was right. He hung up, walked back inside, and found Alana sipping tea in the kitchen. She looked up. You're still worried? They're not done, he said. She nodded slowly. Then we won't be either. That night, Dwayne moved her to their second property in Malibu, a cliffside house with state-of-the-art security, fewer neighbors, and fewer risks. Roman's team swept every corner, cameras were installed, and guards rotated in shifts. Still, Dwayne didn't rest. He trained harder, not for a role, but for reality. Meanwhile, the gang was already in motion. They didn't strike at Dwayne, not yet. They knew better than to walk into his world. So they found someone close. Someone unguarded. Vincent. He was a local boxing coach in Inglewood, old friend of Dwayne's, and more importantly, he had once trained Alana in self-defense. A good man, no enemies, no reason to fear trouble. Until one morning when three bikers cornered him outside his gym. You know The Rock? One asked. Vincent turned, gym bag over his shoulder. Yeah, why? The fist came without warning. Then a kick. Then a boot to the ribs. He went down hard. They didn't kill him, but they left him with a message carved crudely into the gym's glass door. You're next, Hollywood. Dwayne got the call that evening.
He didn't say a word for almost a minute, just stared at the floor, the phone pressed to his ear, his other hand curled into a fist.
Then he spoke one word.
Where?
He drove alone, refused an escort. Roman called twice. Dwayne ignored both.
When he got to the gym, Vincent was sitting on the bench, a towel pressed to his swollen eye, his mouth split, blood on his shirt.
Dwayne crouched beside him. Why didn't you call me before? Vincent managed a weak smile. Didn't want to bother you. You're not a bother, Dwayne said, his voice tight.
They're coming for you, Vincent whispered. And they're not coming to fight. Dwayne stood slowly, looked around the empty street, and nodded.
It was on. But he wasn't waiting for them to strike. Now he was going after them. Back at the biker compound, Reaper watched footage from a camera his crew had planted near the Malibu house. Grainy, distant, but clear enough to spot Alana through the living room window. She's right there, one of the men whispered. We could grab her in under 2 minutes. Reaper shook his head.
Too easy. We want him. We want the Rock to feel helpless. We let her see us. We let him come. Come where?
Reaper smirked.
Right to hell.
Meanwhile, Dwayne was already planning. He wasn't going to wait, not this time. Dwayne stood in the middle of his private gym, surrounded by thick silence and the weight of his decision. For most of his life, he'd been told to stay above violence, use his fame, not his fists. But this wasn't Hollywood. This was real. A gang had kicked his wife in the face and beaten his friend nearly to death. If he didn't stop them now, they'd come back harder. And next time, someone he loved might not walk away. He wrapped his hands with cloth, pulling tight, feeling the burn in his knuckles. He wasn't training for a role anymore. He was preparing for war. That night, he visited Vincent again. The gym was still shut down, the shattered glass door, now covered with plywood. Vincent sat with ice on his ribs, but the fire in his eyes hadn't faded. You sure you want to do this? Vincent asked, his voice raspy. Dwayne nodded. You know where they are?
I know where they hang out on Friday nights, Vincent said. Old biker bar out by the docks, place called Hell's Mouth. No cops go there, no cameras either. Perfect. Dwayne went back to Malibu and kissed Alana on the forehead. She was asleep, finally resting without fear for the first time in days.
He didn't tell her where he was going. He just whispered, I'll be back before morning, and this ends tonight. The docks were quiet when he arrived, lit only by rusted street lamps and the flicker of neon from the bar's cracked sign. Hell's Mouth pulsed with low music and drunken laughter. Outside, bikes were lined up like trophies, chrome glinting under the haze of fog. Dwayne didn't wear a disguise. He wanted them to know who was coming.
He stepped inside.
The music stopped. A dozen heads turned. Conversations fell silent. There he was, towering, unblinking, walking straight to the bar like he belonged. A lanky biker stood up first. His lip curled into a sneer. "Well, look who it is, Mr. Box Office himself." Dwayne didn't flinch. "I'm here for Reaper." The biker laughed. "Reaper don't take walk-ins." Dwayne grabbed him by the vest, dragged him over the bar, and slammed him into the bottles behind it. Glass exploded. Liquor spilled like blood. Screams erupted.
"Someone tell Reaper I'm outside," he growled, then stepped back into the street.
The fight came fast. Two bikers rushed out, swinging chains and clubs. Dwayne ducked one, caught the other in mid-swing, and drove his elbow into the man's chin. The second charged, he took him down with a spinning back kick that sent him into a parked bike, collapsing metal and flesh into a heap. By the time the rest stormed out, Reaper included, Dwayne was ready. Reaper was taller than he expected, broad, covered in tattoos that crawled up his throat like vines of poison. He smiled without humor. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he said. "You're outnumbered. This ain't the movies, Rock." Dwayne's jaw tightened. It's personal."
And then he moved.
He met the first attacker with a jab to the throat, dropped him with a knee to the stomach, turned, and used one guy's momentum to hurl him into another. A chain wrapped around his arm. He yanked it, pulling the attacker forward and flipping him over his shoulder. Reaper came last. He cracked his knuckles. "I've been waiting for this." Dwayne raised his fists. "Good, because I'm not holding back."
The two collided like thunder. Fists slammed into ribs, elbows into jaws. Reaper swung a steel bar. Dwayne caught it mid-air, wrenched it from his hands, and shattered it across his knee.
Blood sprayed, but Reaper kept fighting.
He tackled Dwayne, driving him against a concrete pillar. The impact made the dock shake, but Dwayne twisted out, ducked low, and surged forward with a brutal uppercut that lifted Reaper off the ground.
He crashed down, choking on blood.
"Your mistake," Dwayne said, breathless, "was thinking this was about pride."
He stood over him, panting. "This was about family." Sirens echoed in the distance. Dwayne looked up. Too late. He was gone before the cops arrived. The next morning, headlines exploded again. "The Rock takes out biker gang at docks." But this time, the police added their own note. "Multiple arrests made, weapons seized, gang under federal investigation." It was over. For now.
Back in Malibu, Alana opened the door to find Dwayne covered in bruises, dirt and sweat, but alive.
He wrapped her in his arms. "It's done," he whispered. But she pulled back, eyes glistening. "Until they try again." He nodded. And in that moment, they both knew. The fight might never truly end, but neither would their strength.
A week had passed since the fight at Hell's Mouth.
The bruises on Dwayne's knuckles were fading, but the headlines hadn't. Every news outlet had grabbed hold of the story, each putting its own spin on the brawl. Some called it a heroic stand. Others whispered about vigilantism, but most agreed on one thing. The biker gang known as Black Fangs was finally fractured. What the media didn't know, though, was that a fracture wasn't the same as a break. And the Black Fangs weren't finished. It began with a van parked 2 blocks down from Dwayne's Malibu estate. Then a drone buzzed the property line one night while Alana was watering the garden. Then one morning, he found their mailbox torched, its metal still smoking. Dwayne's instincts lit up.
He doubled security, changed alarm codes, and made sure Alana never went anywhere without the new black SUV equipped with bulletproof glass. But he didn't say a word to the press.
This wasn't about optics anymore.
It was war, and he wouldn't let his enemies see him flinch.
He spent hours each night training, lifting, striking, sharpening everything. But it wasn't about size or power. It was about control, timing, preparation. One evening, as the sunset cast gold across the California sky, Alana came into the gym and watched him from the doorway. "You haven't slept much," she said softly. He stopped mid-combo and turned to her. Sweat dripped from his brow. "I will when I know you're safe." She stepped closer and gently touched his chest. "I am safe. Because of you." Dwayne looked away. "They're not done."
She didn't argue. She didn't try to reassure him. She just nodded and whispered, "Then neither are we."
That night, everything unraveled. It started with the alarm, a short, sharp beep from the control panel. Perimeter breach. Dwayne was downstairs before it beeped twice. He checked the cameras. 3 figures were crawling along the fence, 2 cutting wires, 1 holding a bat. Then another camera blinked out. Then another. He sprinted to the garage, unlocked the safe, and grabbed the baton. Not a gun. That wasn't his way. He flicked off the lights and moved to the hallway, heart pounding like a drumline. Outside, footsteps crunched on gravel.
A door handle jiggled.
Then glass shattered in the kitchen. Dwayne moved. One intruder slid through the broken window, crouched low, holding a knife. The others were at the back door, picking the lock. Dwayne caught the first man before he stood upright, slamming him against the fridge with the full force of his shoulder. The knife dropped with a clatter. He drove a knee into the man's stomach and cracked the baton across his temple.
The man collapsed.
Another voice. "Go! He's in there!"
2 more charged through the back door. One swung a chain. Dwayne blocked with the baton, twisted the weapon, and slammed the attacker against the counter. The other pulled a taser.
The crackle lit the room. Dwayne ducked, grabbed a stool, and hurled it across the kitchen. It hit the taser wielder in the face, knocking him unconscious. More footsteps. 5 men, all wearing the fanged skull patch. One of them barked, "You took down Reaper, now we take your face." Dwayne smiled grimly. "Try it." The kitchen became a battleground. Cabinets shattered, dishes crashed. But Dwayne moved like a hurricane, every strike calculated, every motion controlled. He blocked a bat with a cutting board, slammed a man's head into the microwave, and flipped another over the kitchen island. 2 fled, 1 stayed too long. Dwayne hurled him into the pantry and shut the door. Silence returned. Then Alana's scream.
It wasn't in the house.
It was outside.
Dwayne bolted through the broken window and into the garden. She was on the lawn, 2 men dragging her toward the open gate.
"Let her go!" he roared. They turned, but too late.
He was already in motion.
He tackled the first one, slamming him into the hedge. The second tried to run. He didn't get far. Dwayne caught him by the collar and swung him into the stone path. Alana collapsed to her knees, shaking. Dwayne knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Number I kicked one in the groin."
He almost smiled. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Finally,
When the cops arrived, Dwayne explained everything. The bodies, the weapons, the gang patch. They took them all away. But that night, after the lights died and the house was still, Dwayne stood on the balcony, looking out over the moonlit ocean. He knew it wasn't over. Someone higher up was still pulling strings. And soon, he'd need to go looking for them. The morning after the attack, the world awoke to a different Dwayne Johnson. Gone was the charming public figure with a grin that lit up red carpets. What stood now before the cameras, behind a steel gate, flanked by police cruisers and yellow tape, was a man forged in fury. Not just a fighter, but a protector with nothing left to prove. "I won't be taking questions," Dwayne said, facing a crowd of reporters as helicopters buzzed overhead. "I will say this. If you come after my family, you better be ready for what comes next."
Clicking shutters. Shouted questions. But Dwayne was already turning away, his jaw set, eyes dark.
He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in the study, going through the security footage frame by frame. He paused on one moment, just before the man at the back door picked the lock. A tattoo on his wrist. A coiled serpent with wings. It wasn't a symbol of the Black Fangs, it was something else. Dwayne did what he hadn't done in years. He called someone from the past. "Ryder," he he said when the line connected. The voice on the other end exhaled slowly. Been a long time, Johnson. I need information about a group, possibly connected to the fangs, but something else. A winged serpent tattoo. There was a pause, then, meet me at the old lock behind the racetrack. Midnight. Click. Alana was asleep when he left. He kissed her forehead and whispered, just a little longer. I promise. The night air was cold and sharp. The lot behind the racetrack hadn't changed. Faded paint on the walls, cracked pavement, flickering lights overhead. Ryder was waiting, arms folded, scar running down his left eye, the price of a past mission neither of them liked to talk about. You're in deeper than I thought, Ryder said. Dwayne handed him a printout of the tattoo. Recognize this? Ryder studied it. Yeah, it's not just a gang, it's an organization, calls itself the Clutch, ex-military, mercs, some dirty cops, funded by off-the-books money from old cartels. What's their angle?
Ryder's expression turned grave. Chaos. They believe society needs resetting, that only the strong should lead, and they've been watching you since you broke Reaper's jaw.
Dwayne felt the weight settle on his shoulders. Any way to get ahead of them?
Ryder nodded. They're planning something big, and they've been using the Black Fangs as pawns, but I can get you into one of their safe houses not far from here. Dwayne's voice was like steel. Then let's go.
The safe house was nestled between two abandoned warehouses on the edge of the industrial district. No sign, no security cameras. But Ryder's intel was right. Inside were crates of weapons, maps, lists, names. Dwayne's name was on one. So was Alana's. He gritted his teeth. This ends now. Suddenly a click. Footsteps. They weren't alone. Dwayne flattened against the wall, hand gripping a crowbar. Two men entered through a side door, laughing. Dwayne waited, then struck. One went down immediately. The other reached for his sidearm, but Ryder shot first. Silence. Dwayne stood over them, chest rising and falling. Then he looked at the table, at the map. Marked in red ink. Friday, 7 p.m., the Lotus. The Lotus was a high-end restaurant downtown. A charity gala was scheduled there that Friday. Dwayne's blood turned to ice. Alana was supposed to speak at that gala. He stormed out of the safe house, Ryder close behind. You're not going alone, Ryder said. I'm not, Dwayne growled. I'm bringing the storm.
Friday night came like a thunderclap.
Security at the Lotus was doubled. No one entered without ID, and Dwayne personally checked the exits, the rooftop, even the staff. Alana arrived in a shimmering navy dress, unaware of the storm around her. Dwayne kept her close, pretending everything was normal, but every moment stretched taut like a wire.
7 p.m. came.
Then 7:03.
Then 7:05.
Still nothing.
Until the lights flickered.
And then
the fire alarm went off.
Chaos erupted, screams, guests rushing toward exits. Dwayne turned, scanning every shadow, and then he saw him. The same man from the footage. Winged serpent tattoo. Dressed as a waiter. Pulling a concealed weapon. Dwayne moved before anyone else could scream. He tackled the man, slamming him into a wine rack, sending shards flying. The gun clattered across the floor.
The man reached for a knife. Dwayne punched him so hard his head bounced off the marble floor.
Another attacker emerged from the kitchen. Ryder intercepted him with a stun baton. The guests were ushered out. Alana was safe. But Dwayne wasn't done.
The Clutch had made one thing clear. They weren't just trying to scare him.
They wanted to break him, but they forgot one thing. Dwayne Johnson doesn't break.
He rises.
The shattered wine rack, the bloodied marble, and the chaos of the Lotus restaurant was still fresh in Dwayne's memory as he stood alone in his garage. It was well past midnight. The moonlight gleamed off a sleek black duffel bag he'd just finished packing. Gloves, wraps, brass knuckles, and a few items Ryder had supplied that weren't strictly legal. He looked in the mirror. This wasn't the Hollywood face the world knew. This was the man who once fought bare-knuckle underground matches just to feed himself. The man who buried his fear in fists and rose through pain. A storm was building behind his eyes. Ryder arrived just as the sun broke the horizon. "I found them," he said, handing Dwayne a phone. On the screen, a warehouse in the hills, remote, armed, guard shifts, surveillance blind spots. It was their base, and tonight it would fall.
We go in at dusk, Dwayne said. No cops, no backup. Just us. Ryder hesitated. We're not walking into a fight. We're walking into a war. Dwayne's knuckles cracked as he tightened the wraps. Good. I've been waiting for one.
The drive was silent. They parked a mile away from the warehouse and hiked the rest of the way through the thick brush, dusk cloaking them like a second skin. The clutch thought they were ghosts, untouchable. But ghosts don't bleed. The rock moved with a precision that belied his size, every footfall calculated. They waited as two guards patrolled the perimeter. The first went down to Ryder's blade. The second turned, only to be silenced by Dwayne's forearm crashing into his throat like a sledgehammer. They dragged the bodies into the trees. Then they crept inside. The warehouse was colder than expected, lit by overhead fluorescents that buzzed like angry bees. Wooden crates formed narrow paths like a maze, many marked with military symbols, others with Russian text. Whatever the clutch was doing, it wasn't small time. They reached a control room. Inside were blueprints, passports, burner phones, and a digital feed, camera footage of the Lotus attack, of Dwayne, of Alana. They were studying us, Ryder whispered. Like a game. Dwayne spotted a whiteboard. Operation Lion's Neck. Final stage, capture and broadcast. Underneath were timestamps, coordinates, and a name. Cassian. Dwayne's jaw tightened. Leader! Ryder nodded. Ex-Special Forces, vanished after dishonorable discharge. Rumors said he built his own army. Let's find him. The deeper they went, the louder the warehouse hummed, with machinery and distant voices. Then Dwayne froze, a scream, feminine. It was coming from below. He didn't wait. He bolted toward a metal staircase at the far end, Ryder right behind him. They descended into a sub-basement lit by harsh blue lights. It was a command center and a prison. Behind reinforced glass, Alana was strapped to a chair, a camera pointed at her face. A man stood nearby, Cassian, tall, cold eyes, sharpened jaw, black combat gear. "You're early," Cassian said, not surprised. "But I guess a husband's rage is never late." Dwayne's fists curled. "Let her go." Cassian shook his head. "Your wife is going to be a symbol, a message. You've humiliated my people, killed them, so now the world will watch you break." He nodded toward the glass. "See that panel? That shock switch is wired to her chair, and I have the only key card." Dwayne stepped forward. Cassian raised a remote. "I wouldn't." But Dwayne didn't stop. Cassian pressed the button. Alana screamed as voltage surged through her. "No!" Dwayne roared. He lunged, crashing through the glass, sparks flying as the frame shattered. Cassian slammed his fist into Dwayne's ribs, but Dwayne caught his arm, twisted it, and drove him through the metal table with a thunderous crash. The remote flew across the room. Ryder caught it, disabled the system, and rushed to Alana. Cassian pulled a hidden knife, but Dwayne kneed him so hard he collapsed. "This is for touching my wife," Dwayne growled. Then he grabbed a length of metal chain from the floor. He wrapped it around Cassian's chest, yanked him up, and dragged him, screaming, out of the control room, through the broken glass, up the stairs, and out onto the gravel lot outside. Guards rushed out. They stopped when they saw who held their commander. "You want to follow him?" Dwayne bellowed. The chain clinked as he yanked Cassian down onto the concrete. No one moved. "No?" Dwayne said. "Then tell your brothers, the rock doesn't break." He dropped Cassian's unconscious body at their feet. Back at home, Alana sat on the couch, blanket wrapped around her, safe again. Dwayne stood at the window, watching the rain. "You didn't have to do all that," she said softly.
He turned. Yes, I did. Because they forgot the one rule.
What rule? He walked over, pulled her close, and whispered, "Never touch a fighter's heart." 3 days passed.
The news was everywhere.
The Rock saves wife from biker gang. Cult-like gang, the Clutch, under FBI probe after hostage scandal. Ex-Green Beret Cassian captured in brutal showdown. Dwayne stood on the balcony of a safe house hidden in the Hollywood Hills. Alana was asleep inside, finally resting without tremors. Ryder was downstairs, speaking to contacts in law enforcement and intelligence circles. No one could explain how the Clutch had operated beneath the radar for so long, or why they'd targeted the Rock so personally. But Dwayne felt it. This wasn't over,
There was something unfinished. He just couldn't shake it.
until his phone rang. Unknown number, he answered. The voice on the other end chilled his blood. "You think it's done?" Silence. "You think Cassian was the king? He was a pawn, a soldier who forgot his place? But me? I remember every blow you've ever landed in that ring. And I know the price you'll pay."
Who is this? Dwayne asked slowly.
"Let's just say, the last man you'll see standing." Click. The line went dead.
Ryder burst in moments later. "We've got a problem."
He tossed a phone onto the table. A live stream was playing.
It showed a private airstrip near the outskirts of LA. A dozen men in Clutch insignia, heavily armed, patrolled the runway. In the center stood something horrifying.
A crate. A countdown. 2:54. 2:53.
"They've got explosives," Ryder said. "And if that clock hits 0...
"I know," Dwayne interrupted, his fists clenched. "They want the world to burn." Ryder pulled up a blueprint. "We go in from here." He pointed to a side access tunnel. 3 minutes of silence, then we breach. But there's something else. Dwayne looked at him.
"Whoever's in charge now, they know everything about you. This is personal."
Dwayne exhaled. "Then I won't hold back." The Rock and Ryder moved like phantoms through the shadows of the airstrip. The roar of distant turbines covered their footsteps. The crate now sat center stage, flashing red. Its countdown dropped below 2 minutes. Dwayne's heart pounded, but not from fear, from rage. He spotted the leader almost immediately,
Not dressed like a biker.
not even armed, but standing confidently in the center of the madness. A grey-haired man in a suit. He was clean-cut, sharp-eyed. The kind of man you'd never expect to stand over a bomb and smile. He noticed Dwayne instantly. "I was hoping you'd come," the man said.
"Who are you?"
"Name's Mercer," he replied. "Used to run spec ops for countries I can't name. Retired early to build something better, something that answers to no one." "You hurt my wife," Dwayne growled. "No," Mercer corrected. "I tested your threshold, and you passed. But now comes the final question. What will you do when the world watches you fail?" He pointed up. Drones buzzed overhead, live streaming the scene to hundreds of thousands. Mercer smiled. "Time's almost up, champ." 0:59, 0:58, Ryder whispered, from behind a fuel barrel. "We disable the bomb. We end this." But Dwayne stepped forward. "No."
He walked straight toward Mercer.
Guards raised rifles. Mercer held up a hand. "Let him."
The Rock stood inches from him. "You want the spotlight."
"I want legacy," Mercer said. "When this bomb goes off, I'll be the man who beat the Rock, who outplayed a global icon."
Dwayne nodded, then punched Mercer so hard the man flew 10 feet and crashed through a metal gate.
Chaos exploded.
Ryder tackled 2 guards. Dwayne stormed toward the bomb. A tech crew tried to intercept him, but he grabbed a wrench and smashed their control panel.
0:28, 0:27.
Mercer rose, bloody and furious. "You can't stop it!"
But Dwayne grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the crate. "Tell me the code." "I'd rather die." Dwayne didn't blink. "Fine." He wrapped his arm around Mercer's neck, hoisted him up, and used the man's retina to scan the override. 006, beep 005.
Override accepted.
Timer froze. Mercer collapsed. Sirens blared in the distance. FBI, SWAT. Media vans. The clutch began to scatter, but it was too late. Ryder pulled Duane away as agents swarmed in. Alana, watching from the safe house, let out the breath she didn't know she was holding. Later that night, Duane stood in front of a mirror again, but this time it wasn't anger staring back. It was clarity. The world now knew what the clutch really was, and what a fighter's love could destroy.
He walked out to the patio where Alana waited.
She stood up and smiled, the bruises on her cheek fading now. He kissed her forehead.
"It's over," she whispered.
"No," he replied. "It's only just beginning." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?"
"I'm done being just a fighter. It's time to clean the streets for good."
And in that moment, a new chapter began, not just for The Rock, but for every monster who thought power could break love. The courtroom was packed, not with celebrities, not with fans, not even with curious onlookers. It was packed with victims, mothers, daughters, wives, all who had suffered under the hands of the clutch and their silent terror network. And now they had a voice, one louder than any microphone and stronger than any law.
His name was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
He took the stand not as a movie star, not as a wrestler, but as a husband, a protector, a man who had bled and broken bones to defend the one woman who mattered more than his entire career. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Johnson, please state your involvement in the events of last week." Dwayne leaned toward the mic.
"My wife was attacked on the street in front of witnesses. The man who did it, Cassian, was just the beginning. What followed was a conspiracy that nearly detonated a bomb in the heart of Los Angeles. They thought they were above justice." He looked straight at Mercer, sitting in shackles, lips curled in defiance.
"But they forgot who I am." Gasps rippled through the room.
"I'm not just a fighter. I'm not just an actor. I'm a man who protects, and I will never stop protecting my family or any innocent life these cowards try to shatter." The judge nodded slowly.
"Thank you, Mr. Johnson." As Dwayne stepped down, Mercer chuckled under his breath. "You think this is justice?" he hissed. "This is theatre. There's no cage big enough to hold the idea I planted."
Dwayne leaned in close.
"I'm not putting you in a cage, Mercer. I'm putting you in history."
That night, Alana walked into the training center Dwayne had begun building on the outskirts of the city.
It wasn't a gym, it was a fortress. Brick walls, reinforced steel, and in the center, dozens of young women training in self-defense. Some were former victims, others were law students, athletes, or everyday women who decided enough was enough. Alana watched them, misty-eyed. Then she turned to Dwayne, who stood in the back, arms folded. "You did this," she said. "No," he replied. "You did. The moment you refused to be defined by what happened. That changed everything." She smiled and kissed his cheek. "Now let's finish what we started." The next morning, a letter arrived.
No address?
No name, just a wax seal with a familiar insignia, a burning skull wrapped in chains. The clutch. Inside was a photo. A warehouse on the city's edge. Abandoned. Or so it seemed. A handwritten message beneath it. "Come alone, or we finish what we started, with someone else you love." Dwayne's jaw tightened. Alana took the paper from him, read it, and set it down. "You're not going alone." "I have to." "No, Dwayne. This isn't about just you anymore. You said it yourself. This is bigger than us, bigger than revenge. You started something, and now we finish it together." He stared at her, torn between fear and respect, then nodded. "Gear up." They arrived at the warehouse just after sunset. Ryder was with them, along with a few trusted allies from Dwayne's early wrestling and military days. No cops, no press, just muscle and memory. The building was quiet. Too quiet. Inside, a single spotlight flickered above a ring made of chains. And waiting in that ring, Cassian. Free, bloodied, bruised, but alive.
He smirked. Miss me?
Dwayne stepped forward.
I thought Mercer was in charge.
Cassian wiped his mouth. Mercer, he was the suit, the money, I was the hands, and now I'm the legacy. He cracked his neck. You want this over? Beat me. Break me. But know this. If I win, your world crumbles. If you win, mine does. One fight, one end. Dwayne took off his jacket.
Then ring the bell.
Cassian lunged.
The fight was pure fury. No rules, no ropes, just brutality.
Cassian struck like a wild animal, elbows, knees, spinning fists, but Dwayne's counters were relentless. He absorbed hits like a mountain and returned them with seismic force. Blow after blow, the chains around them shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Alana watched with fists clenched, every strike echoing in her chest. Then Cassian reached under the mat and pulled a knife. Dwayne ducked, but the blade grazed his arm.
Blood.
Ryder shouted, "He's cheating!"
But Dwayne didn't stop. He roared, caught Cassian's wrist, twisted it till the knife dropped, and delivered a spine-shattering slam that shook the building.
Cassian didn't rise. Not again. Not ever. Silence filled the warehouse.
Then a voice crackled over a speaker.
Legacy acknowledged. It was Mercer's voice, a final transmission. And then the building lights shut off. Gone. The clutch, finally, extinguished. Dwayne dropped to his knees, not from exhaustion, but from release. It was done. He turned to Alana. Let's go home. And for the first time in weeks, she nodded without fear. The world had changed, not because of a viral fight, not because of a movie, but because one man, pushed too far, stood up, not just for his wife, but for every victim who thought no one would ever fight for them. In the days following the warehouse showdown, news of the clutch's downfall spread like wildfire. The city, once held hostage by silent threats and back-alley brutality, now pulsed with a different energy, hope. Dwayne sat in the back of a television studio, watching as the anchor read the headlines. Mercer charged on 17 counts. Cassian found comatose. The clutch dismantled from within.
But what caught his attention wasn't the legal victory.
It was the faces, dozens of women, stepping forward, speaking out.
Alana sat beside him, her hand resting on his thigh. She had testified, shared her scars, not the physical ones, but the invisible ones, the ones that lived behind her eyes every time she looked in a mirror.
Are you okay? She asked. Dwayne nodded. For the first time in a long time, yeah. 2 weeks later, Dwayne held a press conference. No suit, no makeup, no production crew, just him, a microphone, and a crowd of reporters whose lenses shook with anticipation. I didn't choose to become a symbol, he said. I didn't want to be the face of another war. He paused, voice tightening. But when someone kicks your wife in the face in broad daylight, that changes something inside you. It doesn't just break your heart. It resets your soul. He looked to the side where Alana stood in a white suit, radiant and unbroken. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about protection. It's about prevention. It's about building a world where women don't have to fear the corner, the club, or the quiet alley behind their home. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small emblem. A broken chain, mended by a lightning bolt. This will be the new mark of safety, he said. We're launching the Iron Bond Initiative, a nationwide network of safe training centers, legal advocacy programs, and trauma support shelters for women, for fighters, for survivors. The crowd erupted in applause,
but Dwayne's face remained solemn.
This isn't charity. This is repair. Alana's recovery was physical, emotional, spiritual. Each day she stood before a new group of women, young and old, rich and poor, bruised and bold, told them her story, and they listened. Not because she was famous, but because she was real. And in her eyes they saw a version of themselves that wasn't broken. One day, after leading a self-defense seminar, a teenage girl approached her. "My dad used to hit my mum," she said. "He used to say no one would care."
Alana knelt.
And now, the girl's eyes gleamed. "Now I know he was wrong." Alana smiled. That's power. Mercer's trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. From financial records to encrypted messages, from surveillance to sworn testimony, the court built an ironclad case. Mercer never spoke. Not once.
He sat in silence as the verdict was read.
Guilty on all counts. As they led him away, he glanced toward the gallery. Duane stood there, arms crossed, unmoved. Mercer sneered. "You didn't win, you just delayed the next version of me." Duane didn't blink. Number I inspired the version of you that never gets born. Cassian remained in a medical coma. Doctors said he might never wake. And maybe that was mercy. He was moved to a maximum security ward monitored day and night. But no one came to visit. No friends. No family. No followers. The clutch was finished. Not just dismantled, but erased. The name became a cautionary tale, a whisper in history books, a reminder that even shadows can be pulled into the light. 1 year later, Duane and Alana stood outside the ribbon cutting of the 50th Iron Bond Center. It was in the same neighborhood where it all began, where a biker boot shattered everything, and now where steel, sweat, and healing rebuilt it. As the ribbon fell, Duane turned to the crowd and raised his hands. "This is not a monument to violence," he said. "It's a sanctuary from it. And if anyone out there still thinks they can prey on the weak, just know this. We are watching, and we're not afraid." The crowd erupted in cheers.
Alana whispered, "You think we made a difference?"
Duane looked around. At the women training in the yard. At the legal counselors speaking with survivors. At the children laughing in the daycare inside. He nodded. "We didn't just make a difference. We made a promise." That night, as they lay in bed, Alana curled against his chest. The moonlight poured through the window. She traced a scar on his rib. "You've always been my protector," she said softly. Duane kissed her forehead. "And you've always been my reason." They fell asleep in peace.
Not because the world was fixed.
But because they'd done something bigger than revenge. They'd built a legacy, and legacies don't bleed, they blaze.